Another quote from precisely that period of time, again, talks about the application of scientific knowledge has to be universal. And if it's not universal, it can't be science, it has to be something else. Now that's again, you're not going to get anyone more of a savant than Herschel. He's from a very well-educated German family. They came over when the crazy Georges were, Hanover were kings in Britain, right? It was the Hanoverian monarchy that were then kings of Britain, and the Herschel family were close to the crazy Georges. He is very, very wealthy. They lived in Bath in one of the Royal Crescents, right? He's a Cambridge graduate. He was the first in the mathematics tripos, the natural history and natural philosophy tripos at Cambridge. He is the savant par excellence in Britain. Now, what about the Whigs? The Whigs were pretty upset. And there's a great quote that I was able to unearth by a guy called William Cooper, who was a Scottish glassmaker. He made optical glass. And he says, he's interested because he's interested in the notion of mechanical skill and the notion of mechanical genius. Because right? The notion of mechanical genius is that up to this point is seen as anathema. You're either mechanical or you're a genius, you're not both. He writes, quote, "We cannot but think that the skill and ingenuity of the mechanic in ordinary things are not sufficiently prized here in Britain. And this merely because, from not being sufficiently known, they are accounted ordinary things. We look with indifference on the produce of his intellect, and with the words of his hands, and say, with an emphasis which is meant to deprive him of all merit, that is his trade. True, it may be his trade, but what of this? Has there been no mind at work to regulate, no genius to direct his manual dexterity? Yes, in the meanest mechanical art there is much of these qualities displayed. Genius has indeed been allowed to the tradesman, and this quality of mind has been dominated mechanical genius." That's from 1835. And he goes on to say, now while this term mechanical genius is understood merely in a discriminative sense to distinguish it from other forms under which genius appears, and when it's not associated with any ideas of inferiority, that's well enough. But when it's understood as coupled with certain ideas of inferiority, we cannot assent to the propriety of that disparagement of the faculty which is thus implied. That when people use the term mechanical genius, the idea is a genius of the hand, that therefore can be replaced by machines, that therefore cannot be a genius. Now, what's considered the act of a genius in the early 19th century? Chess playing. Was there an automaton to replace chess players? There most certainly was, called the Turkish chess player. Supposed to have been an automata. The greatest chess players at this time, the Russians get the scene late, were the French. And there was this automaton that was supposed to play chess. It turns out it was a midget who could play chess really, really well. No joke. So the moral to the story was the thinking skill, the skill of the mind, really can't be replaced. They got to get a little midget who knows can fit in a little machine and knows how to play chess. Whereas in making glass or in other aspects of trade, the mechanical skill, right, the manual skill is replaceable, therefore cannot be a genius. And that becomes rather important. Now, what's the moral to the story? Because historians, look, I mean, historians like the past, but it's not like we want to live there. We look at the past in order to understand the present. And footnote, I don't care what anyone says, we don't try to predict the future. We don't have that. No one has that skill, so historians don't either. But I'm interested to understand where we are today. And the moral to the story, and there are several. One is, I was asked to give basically a version of this paper in 2004 at MIT, a guy called Neil Gershfeld, actually a very, very good physicist, and does epitomize I-squared E. He's director for the Center of Bits and Atoms, it was at the time, I think he still is, and also gave a TED talk, it turns out. And he basically said to me, Myles, I read the book on front, it's interesting stuff, you know, we need you to give a show for the Center of Bits and Atoms, because at MIT, you know, we're getting too theoretical, but we don't tinker enough here. We're MIT, we don't tinker enough here. And I said, this is the Center of Bits and Atoms. I mean, it's open 24/7. There's nerd food everywhere. Artifacts with 30,000 empty pizza, containers, and 80,000 empty bottles of Coke. And students going in and out all the time. He said, well, yeah, I know, but the administration is basically emphasizing the theoretical, and we're losing the skill. I want to argue for tinkering, right? I think it's important, and I think Fraunhofer would argue that it's rather important, and that the craft essence, the craft skill is crucial. So, since Jerry's here, Poly needs a machine shop for tinkering. That's, if I were Tsar, if I were Lenin, right, and I had power, the first thing I'd do is say, we're going to create a building where you can go in and you can do whatever you want, just create. Make mistakes. It doesn't matter. Tinker. Do what my dad did. Right? To me, that's an amazing skill. And it has to be nourished if we want to be Sears Technological University. Make mistakes. You can't learn without them. Just learn from it. Don't keep on making the same mistake, otherwise you'll drop kick you because you waste too much money. Then you got to talk to Joe. Don't follow rules. Tell them I said so. I don't care. Imitations fail genius. Break the rule. Do whatever you want. Smash machine. You get extra credit if you're 11. However, the E must never dominate the I squared. That craft is important in and of itself. I want to bring the two aspects of comp together. That it is a skill, and it is an amazing skill. It is important because it is a form of knowledge, not because we can make $50 billion from it. That's how I see it. It is a legitimate intellectual exercise. It is as equally legitimate to secure knowledge about the world from tinkering as it is to read Latin. That's why we do that. If we don't make a sentence, I know Jerry's going to throw something at me, so I just want to make sure I can do it. We don't make a sentence, I don't care. I don't care. You have to make sure that this, because it's raised to a power, doesn't fall to that. Because if it does, we become basically a tradesman. We don't want that. We're a university. So part of me is this old-fashioned Kantian, right? But where I differentiate is craft knowledge is not inferior. Not because of its taint, because no, we don't have working class like we did in the 19th century England, right? So clearly it's a class argument. Here the argument is I want to make craft knowledge is a legitimate knowledge anywhere. It's a different avenue, it's a non-traditional form of knowledge. But it's just as legitimate. But we don't have to sit there and say it's legitimate because we can earn money from it. That's where I kind of begin to. So, with that Wagnerian ending, that's all folks.